going on, people?
Repping the retro Aikman jersey for today's Cowboy game. Going retro with my Aikman jersey today.
Well, hey, thank you guys for joining us for episode 12 of Retro Rewind. We got some fabulous guests with us today. We have 3 of them, so let's start bringing them right on out. Jeff, how about you do it, sir?
All right, who do we got first? I don't know who you're punching in first.
Herbert.
Okay, we have Herbert, creator of Death Carnival, might be one of the most anticipated games coming to the platforms.
Woo! How are you doing, Herbert?
I'm doing great. I loved your intro.
Absolutely, man. It gets you in the retro mood, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. All right.
And up next, we've got Squids.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Squids next. We got Squids Gaming, the world famous plant eater himself is joining us all the way from Arizona.
Squids.
How are you doing, Squids?
I'm doing good. It's not 100 degrees today. So.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
as long as you're not sweating and you can breathe, man, let's do this.
I already sweat enough when I play the games, man. No, I'm just...
And for the first time on Retro Rewind, we have 3 guests all the way from across the pond. Not the Lordship, no, but Clive Illenden.
Man. Wow.
Howdy all. Howdy.
Hey.
How are you doing, Clive?
I should say he's a fellow Commonwealther.
Yes.
Jeff, you know what? I'm going to knock you out, man.
All right, Jeff, you always start this out, man, pretty much. Or you have
all right, so I'm gonna go left to right as they're on my screen. And I'm not leaving Herbert to last for any particular reason, although he did a little research. So I wanna get through the other 2 first. So Clive, tell us what you've been doing. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us what does retro mean to you? Not just maybe gaming, but if it involves movies or sports, or what if someone says retro, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I've been doing, I've been playing a lot of FIFA actually, with my son since last week, and I tweeted out actually that it's funny because he's only 12 and his mate came round and he said, "Oh, I got FIFA." What it meant is I have FIFA on Stadia, and he never really plays Stadia at all, except he did play a bit of FIFA 21. And so him and his mate were just sitting there in front of the big, LG C1 playing FIFA together. And I thought, this is what it's all about. Like, there wasn't a question of, have you got FIFA on X platform? It was, I've got FIFA. Have you? Yeah. Do you want to play? Yeah. Okay. That was the the sort of the summit of the invitation to gaming, and I just thought that's the future. It's like, have you got the game? Doesn't matter. It's just a little anecdote.
That was your 86-inch television. Is that what you were?
Well, I unfortunately, I know Project Storm has an LG C1 86-inch just to make me feel inferior and small and insignificant. Mine is only a mild 40-inch, but it's relative to the size of your house. So to me, that's massive.
If you're in a small room, 40, 45 is really all you need.
Exactly.
You don't need.
I can't get
how many people have a wall and then can sit 3.5 feet back or 8 feet back?
I can't get any further back, Otherwise, it'd be like sitting in the front row at the cinema where you like literally feel a bit nauseous because you're going, "Oh my God, it's overwhelming." Retro. I think a retro to me, it's. To me, there's a sort of an element of nostalgia to retro. Retro is just remembering those things, usually cultural things from a period gone by that resonate to you. So watching the opening sequence, this show, I'm going, "Oh God, yeah, oh yeah, I remember, oh God, oh yes." And it's just like stuff that triggers in your memory. So whether what you were doing, where you were at in your life at the time, and things like that. So to me, that's effectively what retro means. I think there's an element, a sprinkle of nostalgia in it when you sort of say something retro. People often are using it in a complimentary way, or hey, that's really cool, that's like really retro, like a pair of retro trainers or something like, or a pair of, you know, old Converse or whatever. Go, hey, I'm loving the retro Converse, whatever. So there's usually very complimentary, or as you say, there's an element of nostalgia that brings back, you know, moments in your life and you go, oh god, I remember when. And so they're trigger points as well. So that's what sort of retro means to me.
So you bring up nostalgia. That's interesting. There was a couple of people we've talked about being on the show, and they're like, well, I'm only like 20. I don't know retro. But again, retro to them might be something that brings back nostalgia. I think you're the first to mention the nostalgia, Ray. Fact check me on that one. Everyone always brings back consoles.
Yeah, I've got young kids. You know, I've got a teenage daughter and a boy is just about to hit teenage as well. And you're right. They make reference to things like, oh, that's really old. Like what they literally mean is something 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Like, so it's all relative. You know, retro is relative.
Yeah.
You know,
I was like, that's half the boy's life 5 years ago.
Yeah, like,
how old did you say he was? Like,
well, yeah. So what I was saying, you know, my daughter was born before YouTube existed. My son was born while YouTube existed. You know, that's the kind of mind-bending thing you get into head, that these things that we take for granted are so dominant in our life haven't actually been around for that long. But kids are born into that. Whereas we go, you know, you'll never understand how revolutionary this is. And it's because they born into it, they take it for granted, they run it, they own them, they you know, make videos for them and do all these things. Yeah.
A friend of mine, her son is, I don't know how old he is, 9 or 10. Anyways, I was over there. He was like, I don't know, a year old, 18 months. But I think his first words was skip ad, because he had the little iPad and he knew to hit where skip ad was. He couldn't say anything else, but he knew skip ad. And he was like, you know, 18 months old or whatever it was, because he had the little iPad. So.
Unbelievable.
All right, Plant Eater, my boy, my brother. What have you been up to? What have you been playing? And what is retro to you?
It's retro to me.
And you might be the youngest one in the crowd, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I'll be actually 29.
I don't know honestly how old Herbert is. I have no idea. But
I mean, me being Chinese, Asian, so I mean, I could be 200 years old for all you know.
Right. Yeah. Just put that right now. But
so, Squids, what have you been up to, man? And what do you think? What's your definition of retro, sir?
Let's see. So what I've been up to, just streaming left and right. I mean, you guys can probably see a lot of streams popping up, but I've been busy lately. So I've been kind of doing like, what I do is kind of do like longer streams. So then that way, you know, it'll make up for the times that I'm not streaming for those other days. But, yeah, I've just been doing that more and being more consistent with content, things like that. But, what would be retro to me? Like Clive was saying, it's pretty much relative to, you know, that person when they're born and all that stuff. So to me, I don't know, I think it's just really games that you can't like go and buy like at like your Walmart or like at GameStop or something like that. Where basically like it's almost like you can look at it almost like how it's a weird analogy, but one of the games I used to play was Magic the Gathering. They have a standard like card bracket thing. So after a certain amount of time, each card set will fall out of the sets. So same kind of thing with gaming. Over, you know, a couple years, there's not going to be, you know, the Xbox One or Xbox 360 games or whatever. In the stores, you can only go to like, you know, pawn shops or collector stores, you know, those types of things, or online to look for them. So eventually it's going to be like, you know, almost a weird market. It's going to be like, not saying like you need to go and buy all these games. It's going to be like a weird stock that it's going to have to games, depending on what game it is and who wants it, all those things. So that's why it's good to at least keep the games that you have. And I learned that over the years, which I'll kind of go over when we talk Pokemon and all the other games. But
yeah, it's kind of weird. Video games are kind of entering into a kind of a inflated bubble, sort of.
Yeah.
As of late. Maybe we can discuss that as well. We discussed it the last few episodes. But all right, Jeff, take it away, sir. Oh, he's muted.
You're muted. which is a great thing.
Because I'm too busy cheering and yelling at the television. So Herbert is up is last but not least. Now you said pre-show you did a little research. So tell us about yourself, because a lot of people in the crowd may not know who you are. Apparently you're developing a game. I want to tell us about that. And then tell us what retro means to you, and then tell us your research.
Okay. So my name is
that's a lot.
I took notes. Don't worry. So my name is Herbert. I'm the lead at Furion Games, and we're currently developing Death Carnival. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter with some retro elements as well. So I'm sure you guys on this channel will love it. It's very old school, but combined with modern aesthetics, modern networking code, and all that stuff. But we can talk about that a bit later. So to answer your question, what is retro gaming? So first, what I did was, to answer that question, first I came up with my own answer. I really thought about it. Thought back to older games, thought about modern games. What makes the difference between retro and modern game? After I wrote down my answer, then I did research, and I was wondering. I was thinking, there must be some people that would have the same answer as me, because I was thinking it would be a common answer, and then I looked up retro versus modern games, and most of the articles I found, they kept bashing retro games. They basically said, "Oh well, retro games just have bad graphics. Modern games just does everything better. Modern games is just more balanced. Retro games, they didn't know how to balance a game. That's why it's too hard." So I was surprised. I was like, "What? That's so different than what I was thinking," and I was completely surprised.
Not expecting those viewpoints, huh?
No.
Yeah, it's totally different than my own. What do you think about those topics there that you just discussed?
So my point, and as Clive and Squid was talking about their idea, I was like, "Don't say my point. Don't say my point." It's like when you do a presentation and you're last.
Yeah.
It's like, don't use mine. So fortunately, mine was not used. So my point is, limited controls, limited features, limited functionality, and using those limited features and functions have creative uses and game mechanics around those limited features.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what that does is it develops a much deeper game mechanics, instead of touching lightly upon 1,000 different game mechanics. I think it really allows deep developments into individual singular mechanics.
One thing we've always said on the show is don't look at older games with today's lens.
Correct.
You have to look at older games, right, Clive, with older lens. You can't look at it. You can't look at it today and going, "Oh, compared to today," but you can't do that, right?
No,
That's an unfair.
I remember
right?
going back, Rock and I used to have a show called Generation X Gaming
Awesome show.
Club,
Awesome
and
show.
we talked about old games, and I remember talking about Medal of Honor, and I remember and so I had a nostalgic view, because I had a view, because at the time it felt cutting edge. Yeah, I loved the story and all of that. So at the time, my memory of it was an amazing game. It felt so cutting edge. Now, and so you sort of forget when you go back, and then you go back with as you say, the lens that you have now, what games look like. You go, "Oh my God, it looks so awful." But that wasn't what I thought at the time, because it met my expectations of what a game should look like at the time, when it was released, and when I was playing it, and the story and all of that kind of stuff. And so you're right. The danger is when you go back, you go back with so much nostalgia, and you call the game up and you go, "Oh, this is a bit chunky, a bit clunky." But of course, because it is, because you're looking at it, compared to, a top end, Doom Eternal now or whatever, it's like, they're not the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the gameplay hooks are very different as well.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of controls, or however they, designed it and stuff. It's pretty interesting. Like I just got into Black Flag again. And I can tell you that is a great Stadia port. All the textures are fantastic and everything is great. I still love the game. But replaying it a few years later, I can see the old game design, and it rears its ugly head a little bit, you know. Still extremely fun. It doesn't take anything away from it. But I found myself wanting a little bit more like detail, like Red Dead 2, you know, in the game itself.
I found that with some games that you say they've been remastered or whatever, and what you can't quite put your finger on it necessarily, or when you can, you realize actually what it is. It's in where game design mechanics were at that time. Mm-hmm. And so again, equally, it's not about, you know, the graphics could look just as good as you say with, you know, Black Flag and stuff like that, but there's something that you think there's something retro about the design choices, if that makes sense, because they were the design choices in vogue at the time, you know, and those design choices that people have change over time. But equally, some modern games that choose to take a retro approach, so modern platform games that want to instill that nostalgia in you, like what was the Crystal? What's the name on? What's the game from Brazil? The Brazilian developers on the Stadia game.
Crystal's Tales.
Yeah, Chris Tales. Yeah,
yes.
Right.
Yeah, Chris Tales.
They, you know, and the one with the bunny in it as well. You know, they're clearly, they're clearly trying to trigger, you know, memories of what it was like playing platformers back in the day, and so that is a conscious design decision that they've made to say, what did we love probably as kids? What was good about those, you know, things like, you know, playing Super Mario Brothers was so that design mechanic where you back to the beginning, back to the beginning, and it's quite refreshing to see that used again.
Right. Well, I was on the GameStop website, and if you look, they have a retro section, and I can't believe. Yeah, they can say all about the graphics they want, but there's people still trying to make money and profit off of these retro games. I mean, there was games that, I mean, I could go into a flea market and then buy the game for $5, but I see it on these websites for like $29.99.
Oh, it's a big collector's market.
Yeah. And so but you got to understand, there's a younger generation that didn't experience those games. And some people love retro and some people love vintage, and there's collectors out there. And so like myself, I mean, there's games like Atari games that, you know, I didn't play every Atari game, and I want to go back and experience some of those games that I miss. And so there's still people, retro is still booming as far as people want that, like that vintage, that retro, and play those games, and stores know it, and they're going up in prices.
Well, something
we've talked about that on the show before. We had, we've had that. We've talked about that. We've seen the prices of, the $2 million squids. What's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I like I was bringing in the Magic stuff. Like you can look at those too, because they got the Magic cards. Like there's the Black Lotus, that's up there as well. There's a few of those cards like that in Magic and other game things too, in Pokemon, and there's a lot of things like that. But it's one of those things. I mean, well, when they mark those prices, but I would not pay that even if I had that money.
When they make those artistic choices to make like a new AAA game or a new game with the 2D side-scrolling feel, it's amazing to see how much more detail and animations they fit into those little movements compared to when we originally played. I think that stuff looks amazing.
I'm loving the top-down games. I'm coming back to the top-down. That's what I used to play when I was... Yeah, there's a few games that I jumped back into. That was some of the games that I played back in the early days on PlayStation, and it was like the top down, and it just and now I'm loving that a lot of developers, a lot of indie guys are bringing that back and getting that feel. So loving it.
Yeah, I haven't played it myself, but a lot of people are enjoying Diablo 2 remake or remaster. I think it is.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Herbert.
Yeah, Ray actually brought up good points regarding indie games. I was thinking, so back in the day, even if you wanted to, studios just didn't have the tools available to make a game with fancy graphics. So it's not like they absolutely do not want to spend money on it. It's just not available for them to spend a lot of time and energy on the graphic side. So they have to spend all their time on the gameplay, on the writing, on the character design, and I think it's same with indie games nowadays. Indie games nowadays, choosing or just don't have the budget to spend on graphics, and so where's the effort spending? It's spending time. There's lots of time developing character, storyline, the gameplay mechanics, and just polishing it, till it's super shiny and awesome. And I think amongst all the indie games, because so many of them are focused on good gameplay and not as much on fancy graphics. I mean, though there's a minimum these days on how how bare bones graphics are, like all the engines these days. But that means out of all the indie games that make it to be popular, they're already going to have great gameplay, right? It's not like we're AAA games where they may not necessarily have great gameplay.
Exactly.
But
it's like a movie. They show all the good parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of indie titles have superior controls baked in, it seems. So that's.
And I think
really
the indie games, it's also to set yourself apart. If you're designing at that level, is creativity. That's where a platformer is a platformer, but what sets it apart is the imaginative way in which you've decided to tell the story or design the characters and all these kind of aspects which give it that little edge, because at the end of the day it's like, jump onto that rock, jump up there, ping off that one, swing on that rope. There are a lot of similar mechanics, but what sets it apart is a really quirky character design, or the overall game design. Its look is kind of weird or strange or fresh, and that's what sets these things apart.
Maybe Herbert's the only one to answer that. Is it easier today to build a game? Because we hear of a lot of small studios that are like 1, 2, 3 people. Herbert, I don't know how many people are in your team. I don't have any point of reference. But is it easier now with the tools and the engines that are just pre-made, and you can just drag and drop and build it, and then make, and again, cross-platform or not? Think it's easier now than it was back in the olden days?
Yeah. I mean, it's vastly easier now because you get all the asset stores where you do the prototypes or a lot of art assets that you can download, and you can make a game already based on templates, like on Unity, on Unreal. You just plug and play, you just drag stuff in, and it just works, right? I mean, these days, you can make a game in Roblox, right? Like all the SQUID games that they built into Roblox.
I keep making that game. I don't know what they're doing.
Netflix got a whole SQUID game. I asked him what this SQUID game on Netflix is. This is the story of his life. I didn't know what this was. I feel
he survive. I made it out.
Gonna have to send that.
I don't talk about it though.
It's just crazy because I remember playing a game on a floppy disk, man, and sticking it in a computer to now where we're at now. But look at a game like The Ascent. It's a top down. It's got some awesome graphic. It's got looting. It's got everything, and it's just amazing how they put that game together like that. So
it's funny you mentioned about floppy disks. I read a few years ago an article about how we're in danger of losing stuff. Like when for hundreds of thousands of years, you've written stuff down, and that as a storage medium is pretty good. We have documents that are thousands of years old, but as floppy disks have gone from like 5.5-inch floppy disks down to 3.5 inch. You run out of the machines that to be able to read those are slowly disappearing. And so you've got all this data and information, and unless it's sort of backed up onto modern 21st century tech and that continues, you're actually going to lose tons and tons
that makes me think of NASA
data and stuff.
It makes me think of NASA and how they built these machines to read their telemetry tape data and stuff and to read it back, and those machines don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So there's no way to read some of that now. Man.
Yeah.
So back to retro real quick. Clive, what is the first video game that you played that really grabbed your attention and made you want to play games for the rest of your life?
I don't know. It's quite hard for me because I think I remember like very vaguely remember going around my friend's house. My father's never, guy who's going to buy, the latest console or whatever, call it consoles. Basically what I'm talking about is the Atari. But my mate was his parents were slightly better off. And so for Christmas, I think they got an Atari, and I remember playing Pong. So, I kind of remember that. And then, and things like sort of Missile Command and things like that. But I think for me, it was like, when I had in about 1980, 81,
Wow.
my dad bought me a ZX81. So it's called a ZX81 in the UK. I think Rot tells me that in America it was a Texas Instruments thing.
Yep.
But it was the first home computer you could sort of get by Sir Clive Sinclair. He did a ZX80. And then he did his ZX81, and I was joking to my son. I always joked to him about it. I said, "You know how much memory it had?" And he's going, "I don't know, a gig? No, I don't know,
5 megabytes?
500 meg? No, a meg? No, it had 1K.
1K.
It had 1K of memory, but you could get an upgrade pack to upgrade it to 16K. But it was a kind of feat of engineering, both sort of from a software and hardware point of view. And it was about that big. It was flat, and the keys were like, there was touchpad sort of keys on it and stuff like that. And in order for you to sort of be able to program it, each key could do about 4 different things, like a shift function type thing, so that you could put in programming. You could do like hex programming or whatever it is. But it came with BASIC. Mm-hmm. And so it taught, my dad thought, well, computers are going to be the big thing. I want you to get in at the lower rung, and and you can learn how to do computers and stuff like that. So I kind of I learned a bit of BASIC at the time, and I remember that it was the following year was the first time they brought computer studies into school, and so I effectively knew more than the teacher.
Oh wow!
Like at 14,
Yeah,
because I'd had this computer, like and like the teacher had obviously just been given that subject. Do you know what I mean? This is a time when computers in your house didn't exist,
right?
So then, but on that, I remember people used to, there was a magazine called Your Computer, and people used to send in programs they'd made, and you go to the back page and there'd be all these different programs people had made, and you type them out, usually in BASIC. You type them out, and you could play them. Some of them are like, oh, I've done a Boolean sort, real simple sort of, it sorts things out in order and stuff. But some would be games, some would be adventure games. I think someone did a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy game, and it was like a text adventure game and stuff like that. But slowly people sort of pushed the boundaries and then published games for them as well. And I remember buying it was a big adventure game, and it came as a giant poster. And on one side, you had this amazing drawing of this sort of, Lord of the Rings type kind of world. And on the back, you had the program that you typed out. Now, this is literally like a A3 piece of paper, an A2 piece of paper. And you typed out, and it was in tiny type. You typed out everything, 10, go to 20, dot, exclamation mark. And it took ages, right? But you just needed one exclamation mark Well, one colon out of place.
Yes.
And it didn't function. And you'd spent 5 hours typing this thing in. It was just kind of a nightmare. But I remember, that some guy bought out, and that's it. You connected it with your mono cassette player. Mm-hmm. Right. Ooh. And then with some phono plugs.
You're going way back.
And then it went that's the sort of, and it that's how you loaded the game up. And I remember I buying one of these cassettes, and it was 3D Monster Maze. And basically you're getting chased around this 3D maze, literally lines. And then this sort of T-Rex character would but it was like you'd go around a corner, which were just like asymmetric lines, like you draw in a design thing, and this is like, we're talking like 8-bit, if that, black and all black and white, no color. And then if you went round the corner, and then all of a sudden the thing would come towards you, and you go, oh my god. But you were bought into that world. And I think that was the first time I realized at the end, that I'd forgot these were just simple 8-bit lines making a straight line, and then an 8-bit line making the shape of a frontal of a sort of a T-Rex coming at you. But it was like, this is the first 3D experience, because before that they were all like mini platformer things and things like that people kind of did, and they were quite fun. But this was like a 3D thing, even though they were just lines and stuff like that. So I kind of remember that. But what really triggered it for me in terms of consoles was years later, when I went to stay with my sister for Christmas one day. And my sister always spoiled her kids rotten. And so it was about 97, I think. So, and he had, for Christmas, he got the N64 bundled with GoldenEye. And so I was a lot older there. And I just remember waking up. I used to sort of not really like Christmases at my house, but I loved them at my sister's house, because you sort of just do what you want, watch as much telly, play games if you want. So I sat with him and this was the first time I'd sort of really done this, where you spend all day, because it's so addictive, you're having so much fun playing, GoldenEye against each other. And I think that when I think of all the sort of, a bit of arcade here and, old retro gaming, but that was, I think, the moment I thought, wow, this is so much fun. I almost wanted to go home and sort of get one myself. It was that kind of thing. I was thinking, this is such a cool game. This is so addictive. It's such a laugh. And plus, it's sort of co-op. So you're playing with you're playing with somebody and stuff like that. Yeah. It was an incredible game. Game at the time.
Definitely the most, that game introduced me to multiplayer, and that system introduced me to Mario 64, which blew my mind at the time for what could be done with 3D models in a world. So I love the 64. How about you, Squids? Where did it all start for you, sir?
Ooh, so I was the 90s kid, so I kind of got like a little bit spoiled, but not as spoiled as like the kids now, but because just options and stuff around the time. I actually have some of them with me right now.
Show us.
I'll make you full screen, sir. Give me just a second. Bam! There you go.
All right. Oh, sweet.
Squid.
Yeah.
It's the Squid Show.
So I don't have the case for this, but this is my brother's. There's Mortal Kombat, the Sega Genesis.
That had the blood, y'all. That had the blood. Oh my god, I remember that.
That's a good one.
Good
the
game.
cartridge still in there as well. And then dogs kind of got to these, like you could see the dogs got to them, but it's all good. The Sonic 2 and 3.
Yep.
We had one, but I don't know what happened to it. The one is actually in here. This is 2. This is 2. But
one's buried at your mother's house somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. I don't know. And then this is the one here actually. I think this
those
is
are
one.
like just the coolest
Right
cases. Here. I love the Mega Drive.
You don't have the third one. I lost
Sega
that.
cases, man.
Yeah, they definitely added a collector like vibe to it to put them on your shelf, man.
Yeah.
Those boxes.
So I was playing that, and then I'd go to my grandparents, and then they had a NES, and so I'd play the first, the Super Mario Bros. And the Duck Hunt. There's a Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street that I'd play. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The one game that reminds me of not Kazi game. There's the Tiny Toons game that was on NES, and that game reminds me so much of it. Let's see, what else did I play on there? Pretty much all of those, and then just played a lot of platformers, things like that off of there, and then slowly but surely, my brother got a Nintendo 64, got GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time.
Nice.
Zelda's a great title.
He also had a PlayStation that he had, and so I'd kind of be playing that. He wouldn't let us play it that much because that was his thing, but this was one of the demos that me and my brother would play all the time. Some people may not know.
Oh my God, Tumba 2.
What about
Twisted
Parappa
Metal
the Rapper
as well? Parappa the Rapper.
That Twisted
Yeah,
Metal.
That's another one.
Parappa,
Yeah, Twisted Metal. The front part is missing, but it's the
That's the end, bro. That's not look. When you move around those cases, man, it will crack. Yeah.
And then just playing a lot of that, right? And then slowly but surely, me and my brother actually got our own system, which that was the Game Boy Color, because we were using my brother's Game Boy for the longest, and we'd go through batteries, tear through batteries, and our parents would hate us for that. But it was awesome. And then we got, Pokemon Red version was the first Pokemon I ever got, and after that it was a wrap. I got Pokemon Gold. It was like a couple years after that, and then some guy, I don't know, I was getting my cornrows done or something, and the kids the kid that was the barber's kid or whatever walked out with my Game Boy Color and Gold version. I was so salty, and that was me and my brothers, and so we shared that, and then we didn't have anything until pretty much the Game Boy Advance came out, and we had that, and then we had gotten
did you have
GameCube.
the elongated or did you have the square? Which one did you have? The Advance.
Oh, I had the long version, and then we later got the SP.
One,
yeah.
They put one, yeah.
And that's where I also first played the Metroid Zero mission. I had that on the Game Boy Advance, and Metroid Fusion as well. Which
awesome.
They're coming out with Metroid Dread.
That's out.
It's coming out this week on the 8th.
Nice.
It's a 2D Metroid, and that's going to be coming out, and so it's going to be another continuation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Like as Herbert was saying, the way they do their mechanics and stuff. I think that's going to be a fun game. The way they're redoing Metroid.
Yeah, and I'll end it with this kind of GameCube era was like this, and Super Smash Bros, Sonic Forces, a few other games, and then after that we got an Xbox and a few other things. But I'll go more into that maybe later. But that's kind of where it started.
I have to agree with Dr. Spaceman. Shining Force 1 and 2 for their story and RPG elements were fantastic.
I was a huge Eternal Champion, even though that game got so-so reviews. I love Eternal Champion. My character was Midnight the Vampire.
Midnight.
So Herbert, where did your gaming start, sir? What game got you hooked, and then what actually wound up getting you into game developing? What pushed you into that?
Okay, that's two big questions. So I'll answer the first question first, which is which game really got me hooked and really to call myself a gamer. I would say so. I played a lot of games. I mean, through the years, a lot of the games that you guys have mentioned as well. But I would say in terms of for multiplayer, and when I say multiplayer, I mean local multiplayer, couch multiplayer.
Co-op. Yep.
Yeah, would be probably Contra. And Bomberman probably. Yeah, Bomberman and Contra. And you see there's a lot of inspiration from that in Death Carnival as well. And then for single player, it would have to be, I played a lot of single player game, but I would say the ones that made me say I remember one time I said, this is so good. I'm always, until I'm 1,000 years old, 100 years old, I'm always going to dedicate some hours of a day to play video games. And I think that was Final Fantasy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which one?
Maybe 2. like 4. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Sometimes
2, 4?
the numbers over here are different.
4. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
So yeah. I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, like back then there wasn't that kind of entertainment, that kind of immersion, that kind of just taking you away into another reality, another world. I mean, I read books back then. I read plenty of fictional books, and those were great. But having the music, having the sound, having having a character just go through that journey as a kind of inspiration or a parallel to a kid's own life, to improve, to grow, beyond what they currently are, and overcome impossible odds. That's a kind of passion that video games inspired in me, right? And I thought that was amazing, and that always stayed with me for throughout this time.
Yeah, epic hero journeys.
Yeah,
I love that type of stuff. Anything that puts you in the sandals of the hero or whatever, and you get to do stuff you could never do in your normal life, and the robust stories always drove me back to the games like Final Fantasy VII and all those, just so awesome. If you want to finish with the second part, and then we'll let Jeff go.
Sorry, what's the second part again?
Oh, you're muted again, Jeff.
No,
the second part of the
myself.
question is
I was just saying hi to Bruce.
Oh,
I was just saying hi.
Bruce.
That's Bruce.
So the next question is what drove you to game design and into the game development career?
Okay. So it was really interesting. This was something I remembered after I got into game development for a few years, and I only remembered this after the fact. So first, when I actually got into game development, it was just a spur of the moment thing. The very first thing that I created was a loot generator. I think I probably played a lot of Diablo at that point.
Okay.
And I would just make these text-based generator, and I thought, this is pretty cool. And I just hung out with friends and asked them, hey, you want to just try making this loot generator for fun? Because then I can make my own loot, right? I can make my own something flaming of power +5. So I made this generator, and I typed in all my favorites additive stuff to the loot generator, and it was so fun because it was minimal effort, but it's you get these infinite amounts of weapons and armor, and we made it, and that was really fun. And it was only a few years after when I remembered that back in school, I didn't go into programming. I actually went into other things, but during programming classes, I would finish the homework, finish whatever task was there, and I would do something totally unrelated, which was make a game. And I would make these mini games. I would play it, and I would test it, and I would let my classmates play. But that class had nothing to do with games at all. But it was years after the fact that I remembered, and I was like, oh wow, I actually enjoyed making games even back then. Wow. And then I realized, hey, I was meant to do this all along.
So what's the creative process like? Like I don't have any inside information on how Death Carnival the idea was formulated or what the process was, but what motivated you to make a game like Death Carnival?
So I played a lot of first-person shooters back in the day. At my peak, I probably played 16 hours a day, and I played quite competitively. So when I wake up, I would do finger warm-ups, whatever warm-ups, and I would do like military-style drills.
I'm never playing Herbert.
He's trained.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time playing pretty hardcore, and I played so much that it kind of got into that athlete's flow state, right, where you just time is just suspended and you focus on your targets and you don't miss anymore. right?
Yeah, some people don't understand what a flow state is. It's basically a state that a game or anything, music, whatever touches you in a certain way can get you into the state where you don't realize time has passed, or you don't feel pain, or like Herbert was saying, you start connecting and hitting every target. It's amazing when you can reach that flow state in a game. Not many of them can get me there, but some do.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly, and I realized after I was developing a game for a while, and or at least at the earlier stage, I realized that a lot of people, as you mentioned, never ever have gotten into the flow state, and I was a little bit surprised at first because it was natural to me. And so one of the main goals for Death Carnival is, can we get people into the flow state without them spending 16 hours a day?
Right.
So that was the challenge that we set for ourselves. And then we kind of dissected that and thought, okay, how do we do it? What gets people into flow state? It's the emergent factor. And so our answer to that is the stakes have to be high. The stakes have to be high. It has to have consequence. The reason for that is for example, when you do something, anything in life, you just kind of do it, at an average level. But when it's life, or when you're going to die if you don't do it, like when you're in danger,
yes,
your mind reacts differently. Your whole body, your soul, your mind, it becomes different, and you get really into it into the moment. Time slows. So with Death Carnival, what we created was people, the gamers, had to be constantly at the edge of death. They had to be constantly at the edge of having something catastrophic happen to them, and that's what we put into the game. Obviously, we don't put this into the marketing side of things, but
play this game and get close to death.
Yeah. Well, it keeps the stakes rising and keeps you invested. So I could definitely see how that could get people into a flow state, especially the hook. There's always a gameplay hook that underlines all that as well. So
like
that's fantastic.
Like the different levels in the game, like where you choose to play at, should be that you try it a few times and you just get a little bit closer to, like, if you're beating a boss level, like the first time you just think, I'm never going to do this, he's crazy, and then the next time you try it, you notice, well, I got to that point a little bit further on, and then you try again and you go, oh, I got a little bit further on, and so that you think for me, because when I give up is when I've tried it 1,000 times and I'm just not beating the boss. Like I was playing a Doom Eternal level recently, and what I was finding with Doom Eternal is I would struggle, go away, come back, and then I just do it, and it was like really weird. And I was on a particular level recently, and I was just thinking, I'm just struggling, and so I went back to it because I wanted to film a demo, because I was doing a review of something else. So I just wanted to show Doom Eternal off. And then I thought, I'm going to go back to this and give it another go. And, gave it 3 or 4 more goes. And on something I've been trying like 25, 30 times, well, more than that, not getting anywhere. After about 4 or 5 times, I got through that level. And the sense of like accomplishment, relief, I never want to do that again kind of thing, but at the same time, like real satisfied. There's so many games that I just think, have I done it? Because you're not sure, because you're so like wound up in it, and then you think, I did it. Yeah. I did it. It's so amazing. And I think getting the balance, having the different levels that will challenge you, not so it's too easy, but you could just pick the right level so that it feels like a challenge. So you get that immense satisfaction that you feel like you've accomplished something.
Yeah.
That's actually what's it actually goes back to what I was saying before about keeping the controls simple. So one of the things that we did was we kept the controls, twin stick, left stick, right stick, and some buttons for shooting. and like a secondary attack, ultimate attack. But overall, the controls are extremely simple. I mean, we can even have this probably on an arcade cabinet, and it'll play just fine. You know, 4 players arcade cabinet. I would love to make that, and by keeping the controls really straightforward and having multiple difficulty tiers, what it means is by simply moving your control stick a bit faster, pay a bit more attention to it without learning anything else. So you don't have to learn new mechanics. You don't have to learn how to, you know, do a sequence of controls, nothing like that. Just simply by pretending you're the character, moving, surviving a little bit faster, a little bit better, you can already progress better and better in Death Carnival and up the difficulty tiers. And I feel that is the most fair way that we can treat gamers. I think that is basically evens out the playing field by not having to learn 1,000 different moves, by you know, learning new mechanics, you know, several hours later. It's day one, first minute, first hour, you already have the full sets of controls. It's up to you, the player, every single second, how you move the sticks on to determine whether you're good or not. And you can improve that. You can you know, go to bed at night and thinking, I should have done this. Maybe I'll try it tomorrow. And the next day you try it and you're already better. And because we make the controls straightforward, we remove all the clutter between your movements and what happens, the consequence of what happened to you in the game.
Herbert, would you like me to play that footage and you can describe what's happening in it and stuff like that?
Please.
Sure.
All right, let me try to do this as well.
So
can I share that and have it? I don't think I can.
Nah.
I can just talk over it. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
So here, this was testing from this morning. We're working on 2 different versions right now. This is the version that we finished. And then in a few weeks' time, we have another version. So here you see 2 versus 2 PvP. And this is our current PvP test map. You see the graphics are running at, I think some of them running with a lock of 60 frames per second. But on my machine, on a 2080, I run it at 260 frames per second at 2K resolution on highest graphics and effects.
Oh, wow.
So it runs really fast, even on fast machines, slow machines. You can go as high as 4K, 8K if you want. Here we have 2-on-2. We have red players versus blue players, and the wheel up above that you see, it's the bonus wheel. It's kind of like on Mario Kart where it just applies to the whole map instead of one single player. So, for example, everybody can get maximum health. Everybody can suddenly get frozen in place, or everybody's controls can suddenly get inversed. And everybody just freaks out at that point.
So you can sabotage the other players by getting a certain perk that makes their controls go all wonky.
Yeah, it's basically like if one team is winning, and we just have the wheel happen, and it just throws a wrench into the plans, and it just mixes things up, and it really helps to reset the flow of the battle.
Yeah, I imagine you have to change things on the fly when something like that happens immediately. Like change exactly your strategy of how you're playing.
Yeah, exactly. So as you can see, we have some players here, and one of the players he totally sucked at first. So he played 2 rounds. It was just this morning. So he totally sucked at first. At least I'm here, right?
Okay, checking if he's in the chat.
So he totally sucked at first, and then I was like, hey, what's going on? And then the second round, I guess he got pissed off or something. He really focused and he learned from his mistakes. He saw how other people playing it, and he started kicking ass. Nice. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the direct control between the controls to the consequence. That's what I was talking about. If you want to get good, you can get good after 1 round, because it's totally fair. It's totally up to you. That's what we focus on. That's the direct control, and that's how we keep it immersive, and that's how we keep it overused, but that's how we make it real. Yeah,
looks incredible.
So this is the version, the older version, and we're aiming for within a couple of weeks, our big milestone. And I haven't talked about this at all outside of the core circle. So this will be the first time I'm
exclusive.
Yeah.
Exclusive.
So as you can see, the combat here, it's fast paced, but it's a little bit flat, but it's fast paced. You can go around, and so what we're doing is we're incorporating some new mechanics. That's basically the evolution of this combat. First of all, we're putting in melee combo hits. So imagine what you can just do in Smash Brothers, like combo hits when you get up close. So that's already going to have quite a different dynamic, depending if you're a close-up player or you're a long-range player. Here you can also choose different weapons already. So some of the players chose to have a short-range weapon, short-range module, which gives them immense damage, but their shot is shortened. And so they always have to get up close and personal. Some of the other player, they're really cheesy and they like to kite a lot. That's not me. I like to get it up close and personal. But some people are cheesy like that, and they like to kite. And they get what's called a sniper module, and you get a long range shot, but the reload time is slower. But it's cool. So we have all these different modules, and you can mix and match with them, and they all stack. Yeah. So like for example, there was this one time I had the short range but highly damaging shot, and then I also got the high powered damage add-on that you pick up in the level. And so when I just touch it, and when I just get close to anybody, they just melt. I just melt them.
I love those giant guns, man, when they turn into two vehicles on the side of them almost.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
So the new version that's coming out, I'm really super excited about, and this is the first time I'm talking about it. We're adding elements of Mario Kart, Sonic the Hedgehog, Smash Bros, and skateboarding tricks games into the game.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
So how does that even work? So what we're doing is, so first of all, we're unlocking multi-elevation. So you can go below, you can go above, you can go on top of these shipping containers.
Oh man, look at that.
You can go below, and we're adding skateboarding ramps everywhere. So instead of walking slowly upstairs to the higher elevation or going down, just dash or just hit one of these speed ramps. You can just go up, somersault in midair, and shoot at players from midair down below.
Oh,
nice.
We're adding Sonic the Hedgehog type of game mechanics where the speed pads don't no longer single burst speed pads like these that you see. You can have a speed pad where you run up a super long ramp, so far that you go upside down and then shoot at people, drop down bombs from below or something, and
Wow.
it gets nuts. But the main goal of that is it's about giving the players the flexibility to do whatever they want, play however they want.
Yes, I would say that sounds like it's very geared towards that. So thank you for that. A lot of games aren't that way. They want you to play a certain way. Like we were discussing right before we went live, that a lot of games hold your hand nowadays. Like they through every step, they make sure you know what's happening, what you're supposed to do, and how to do it. And in the older games, they didn't do that. They kind of left you to your own devices and figure it out for yourself in certain aspects. Anyway.
Yeah, and I feel Death Carnival is definitely a modernized retro game. Because I think we have a lot of the game design mentality of some of the more retro games. Mm-hmm. When we were at DreamHack, where we won Best Early Game Access at DreamHack, we often had a comment. They said, we haven't played this kind of game in such a long time. We really need this kind of game because we haven't played this in such a long time. And that was so awesome to hear because that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
So what games inspired this one that made you go, oh, I really like that, or I really enjoyed that experience. Let's try to do something similar, or
you can't hear the I'm not I didn't record the audio, but if you can hear the audio, you hear a lot of this very mean announcer guy berating you as you're playing, as you're dying.
Does the announcer talk shit while you're playing?
Yes, he does.
Oh, that's
yes,
awesome.
And where did that come from? That definitely was inspired by Smash TV.
Remember that?
Yes.
Remember that? Yeah.
I actually have that pulled up on a tab. Yeah, Smash TV. That is certainly was a real fun game at my house when my buddies would come over. With Smash TV and Contra as well.
Yeah, there's elements of Contra in here. I mean, this is just
spread bullets. I mean, I
love it.
Wow.
And this is one of the 20 planned characters.
Oh wow!
So every single character is different.
20-something characters. Oh my goodness!
Now I have a question for you. Does the characters all have their own individual backstories, or are they all just thrown into this arena? Because I just read the Death Carnival. What's the game like about sentence up here, and it got me super excited for the story side of things. Is there anything you could tell us about that?
Yeah, we have different storylines for every single character. So they not only have their own storyline, primary weapons, different ultimate attack, different secondary attack. Like for example, there is a roller derby character, and she has a sawed-off shotgun. Obviously, you have to put one in. Obviously. And she has these stuffed animals proximity mines.
What?
That she put down on the ground.
Nice.
Yeah, so we have a lot of fun with the different character designs. I mean, we watch way too much anime, so it gets crazy. And not only that, so not only gameplay wise is it all different, but every single character can have a story campaign that's unique.
Yes.
Nice.
Per character.
Wow.
So there's a lot of replay. I mean, so everything that you see here on the screen now, that's just only PvP. That's only like half of it. The other side of it, that's where our love for Bomberman, co-op Contra, right? Even Final Fantasy 14 boss fights. Nice. All that comes into play. Like our boss, we're gonna have boss fights too. So it's gonna be ridiculous. Our boss fights.
Yeah, the guys that are on like spider legs, like I don't know, some of the art in your game is just bananas. I love the detail on it.
Look at some of the stores and the buildings, the neon lights, the background. I mean, this is like I like the fact that you can go down certain levels and go up and down and do stuff. Oh man,
it's going to be amazing to compete against everybody in this game. Like I said, there's a one thing about the Stadia community is that we're all basically a bunch of good people, but there is a competitive streak. We've been playing Rainbow Six Siege, and there is competitiveness. So that will be fun to bring out the Stadia community's competitive nature.
And of course, great thing about we're basically all on the same server, as it were. We're all on the same, effectively. We're all, that's what it's pretty a level playing field, really, in terms of, the instances are all in the same space, as it were, virtual space. So it makes those competitive games quite good.
I agree.
We're going to have a lot of different competitive elements in the game. So whether you like PvP, whether you like score chasing in co-op or single player mode, speed runs is going to be nuts with the mechanics I just talked about, because if it's freedom of movement, the speed runs are going to be nuts. I can't even predict what that's going to look like. Boss raids.
Have you added anything into the game that didn't work the way you wanted to but turned out better? like something that would trigger something to happen and you decided to keep it into the game?
I don't recall offhand, but there was something that we experimented with, and it just got out of hand. And then we decided to remove it, but it got really competitive, and I want to mention that. So there was a combo system where it's like a hit chain combo, and
So
our
your
hit chain
attacks would stack.
Every time you kill an enemy, if you kill the next enemy within a certain amount of time, then that chain continues, and then it gives you more points, and we even had different music attached to it too. And I think we got our highest tester got up to 800 something kill streak.
Wow.
And keep in mind, this is not like a one room with waves. This is where you have to run really fast to the next area to keep the chain up.
Wow.
Wow.
That sounds awesome.
And if you get hit once, you lose your chain.
Oh wow.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was pretty significant then. 800. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Not kidding.
So our testers would be playing, getting the points bonus of no hits, not even no dying, just no hits on them. So if you guys love competing, this is the serious game for you.
Awesome, man. Can't wait. So excited.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
No doubt.
We had another thing I thought of. So as you increase your combo, back in the day, we had different music. So now we have kind of like a metal music, and it's great. But back in the day, we had like rave music, and it was nuts because it was synchronizing to the kill combos.
Oh.
So as you can imagine, it just got nuts after you hit a certain amount of combos, and the bloom factor back then was really bright. So it was like you're having this rave party on your screen with the music too. It was nuts.
Right on. So you guys heavily into the grind right now? You guys kicking butt, getting ready to upping marketing and all that stuff?
Right now, we're completely focused on the new mechanics that you just described because I feel that's going to be innovative. I feel something innovative. It's going to be different than a lot of twin stick top downs. I feel.
Okay.
It's because it's adding a lot of freedom of movements, like 3D games would, like skateboarding games, like Mario games, like Mario Kart kind of type of games. I think we're going to be combining that into a top-down twin stick shooter in a really innovative way.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So Clive, what got you into this was mentioned on Rock's Housemate show the other day, but what got you into spaghetti westerns, sir? What got you interested in those? Oh, you're muted, Clive.
Sorry. Yeah, I remember when I used to go to stay with my grandparents, like when they lived in London. I used to stay with them for a week, and I remember being there once and watching My Name Is Nobody with Bud Spencer and Terence Hill. So they're not their real names. They were Italian actors. Terence Hill was Italian actor with sort of blonde hair and blue eyes, and then Bud Spencer was this sort of big, like Bluto type character you get from Popeye, a big guy with big black beard and kind of black hair, or whatever. And he didn't take fools lightly. Whereas a Terence Hill character was the kind of he was a tramp and a sort of a lazy git, but he was like an incredible sharpshooter. As a pairing, they made hundreds of films in Italy, like modern cop day films, always playing the same shtick, the same kind of thing. Terence Hill is the kind of easy come guy who happens to be brilliant at everything, and Bud Spencer was the guy who goes around and kind of hits people on the top of the head and instantly knocks them out. That was the gag. Italian sense of humor, hilarious. Anyway, so they were in this spaghetti western called My Name Is Nobody, or My Name Is Trinity. I think it was My Name Is Trinity or something like that. And it was a comedy western. And I was probably 10 or 11 at the time. It was on quite late at night. And I remember watching it. I think it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Like, because it was a comedy. I saw it recently. It's awful. But at 10, I thought it was hilarious. And then I remember, like a bit older, seeing, Fistful of Dollars and stuff like that. And just instantly thinking, wow, this is so not like those boring Westerns, 50s Westerns that, the John Ford Westerns and stuff, which was how I kind of perceived those Westerns at the time, as sort of like, boring Westerns. This was like violent and gritty, and the main character had no morals, sort of thing, and stuff like that. Plus, also you didn't, that age I didn't kind of, well, I think at that age as well, I wanted to be a film director. And so I also recognized it felt different from all the movies I'd ever seen before. It felt cinematic, it felt large, and the use of music, and so it always stuck with me as a teen. And then when I was older, I went to university and I studied film.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so, like, I always kind of remembered those. I was a big fan of Sergio Leone and all those kind of things. And then when I left university, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And my friends and we set up a sort of a film company, and we were going to make corporate videos, whatever, for people, because we knew how to, handle a camera and do editing and stuff like that. So, you can imagine awful corporate type videos, come and rent some office space in Office Inc., kind of stuff like that. So we thought, we'll do that. That'll be easy. And we'll set up a business doing that. But we used to sit around talking, having studied film. So I studied film criticism rather than sort of filmmaking per se, although in that you have to make films, as well, but it was more film criticism. So we'd for 3 years, we'd watched French New Wave, 50s Westerns, oddly enough, 40s sort of musicals, everything, avant-garde films. I mean, Andy Warhol movie. I remember having to sit through some I remember there was an Andy Warhol movie called Empire, I think, which is about 12 hours long.
What?
Like literally the Empire State film. Or there's one with some, a kind of weird one with a motorbike, a kind of semi kind of porn thing going on, really weird. But it was all in slow mo, and it was like literally. I remember when the teacher had gone out. We used to watch the film at 9 o'clock in the morning. We kind of said, put it on fast forward, because we. So watch that. We'd watch some really awful art films and watch them on fast forward. And anyway, but then so when after university, we sat around talking, and we used to sort of say about, I wonder who owns the rights to this. I wonder who owns the right, because at the time you couldn't get a lot of the films we'd seen at university as part of our studies. You couldn't get them on, because VHS it was back then. You couldn't get them on VHS.
Is that because they weren't commercially released?
No, exactly. Okay. And so we kept ringing the British Film Institute so much that it bothered the guy so much. He just said, look, if you're serious, come on in. So we came in and he said, look, you can't just start with one film. You need to build up a library, a catalogue of films, and then you start earning the revenue from that, and then you invest that in more films, and so on and so on. And then you build up your label, So we started effectively a video label. And what he said is, I have the UK rights. I'm doing a deal with Italian film, distributor here, and I have the UK rights for a bunch of spaghetti westerns, like 5 spaghetti westerns. Would you be interested? And we were like, yeah. And I was like, double, yeah, like absolutely. And I've told this story before, those who watch me the show, but I remember, but by the guy's desk was one of those metal film cans, and on it had a bullet for the general, which is a film. It's got Klaus Kinski in it and stuff like that. And I remember going to my mates when the guy wasn't looking, going, look, it's a bullet. Look, he's got a bullet for the general, the real film in a can, like literally there. And it turns out that was one of the films that were on offer. So we did a deal. Well, he told us how much it was. We went away into the pub and we sort of said, well, I think we could get the money together somehow. And so we started, and they weren't like Fistful of Dollars. They were slightly more obscure. Some of them would get shown late night on TV as part of they used to be in the UK as something called Movie Drome. And it was where, they showed cult films, interesting films. And it was presented by a guy called Alex Cox, who was a film director himself. He made a film with Iggy Pop in it, oddly enough.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah, so he used to introduce the film, give it a bit of a backstory and whatever, and then he used to watch the film. And so some of these, well, Bullet for the General was one of those films that were on late at night. So that's where I remember seeing it from. And so that we got into really realizing that, there are so many more spaghetti westerns other than the amazing, Dollars trilogy and the amazing Once Upon a Time in the West, which is probably one of my all-time films ever. It's up there, in terms of it just epic scale and the music and everything. And so you just kind of researched it more, and really sort of got into it and realized the sort of relationship between some of the writers behind him. So some of the films that we had were written by Dario Argento, who of course went on to the Italian horror movies and stuff, and the zombie movies that everybody kind of knows about. There was a whole kind of European horror thing in the 70s, and he wrote many of those. But he cut his teeth writing these, spitting out these westerns. They were literally making them like every week. There's a famous story where they're shooting in Spain, which is where they shot them. So it was usually European money, mostly Italian film studios, shot in Spain to look like the kind of, New Mexico desert and all that kind of Arizona and that kind of stuff. And there's a famous where they're filming it, and then over the hill come these World War II tanks. And it's because in the valley over to the other side, they're filming a World War II movie. So literally in the background, they made thousands. There's so many lost and because 99% of them were awful. To be honest, because they were like literally churning them out, knocking them out every week, cutting them up, dubbing them for every language, selling them around the world, put them in, into drive-ins and for, sort of support movies and stuff like that around the world. But yeah, so the more you sort of, like anything, the more you research, the more interesting it becomes. And so that's, it kind of just, built up my kind of love and passion for, spaghetti westerns. I've got an encyclopedia here, this book, and it says here 558 Euro westerns and their personnel, 61 to 77. And it literally is an encyclopedia of obscure European westerns.
Nice.
Like those with like Lee Van Cleef and stuff like that, and a few American actors who went out there. Like I mentioned before, I think last week about Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where your main character, he gets called out to go to Rome for a few weeks to star in some obscure Western, and that's exactly what was sort of happening at the time. These American TV actors, going out to Rome, being treated and looked after, and then make some sort of obscure, film. And if you like Clint Eastwood, it turns out to be a game changer.
Well, when I heard that story, I thought of Clint Eastwood and his son. I showed you this real quick before we started, but take a look at that. That's Clint Eastwood's son on the right-hand side, and that's Clint Eastwood on the left.
Or the father.
Yeah. Wow. He didn't have a son. He had a clone.
It's his eyes. Like I said earlier to you, that if you just look at the eyes on that kind of the main pictures there, it is so absolutely. You could just instantly.
Clint Eastwood probably had that dip right over the lip too.
Yeah, I mean, Clint Eastwood was such an iconic actor, and he did the gunslinger so well that I'm just shocked that because Hollywood, they say doesn't have a new thought. They just keep, beating the dead horse. I'm surprised we haven't seen a Clint Eastwood remake of one of his movies, like A Fistful of Dollars or something, with his son.
Yeah, Western. Well, oddly, so Westerns come in and out of vogue.
Yep.
And so when Unforgiven came out, there was a sort of sudden flurry. You had the Quick and the Dead and stuff like that. There was a flurry of activity there. They have that, and then Kevin Costner kind of has his moments, and then they sort of go back out of favor when people have got something to say that they feel the Western can do. Then they go through those phases. But there was, I think, the director Walter Hill remade A Fistful of Dollars, but he made it set, I think, in Prohibition times with Bruce Willis. I forget what it was called. So Walter Hill is quite a sort of what we call an economic director. He just just gets on and tells the story as short as possible kind of time, but quite punchy, does the job. I forget what the film was called, but yeah, it had Bruce Willis in it, and it was basically the same plot and everything. But of course, the plot is from Akira Kurosawa, and I can never remember which order they came in, but I think it was Yojimbo, so a Japanese samurai film. But ironically enough, Akira Kurosawa was influenced by the John Ford westerns from earlier. So Kurosawa was channeling the western in his samurai movies, and then Leone was channeling Kurosawa's samurai movies in his thing. And then, of course, they made Magnificent Seven in Hollywood, which, of course, is the Seven Samurai, Kurosawa Seven, which was his tribute to the sort of westerns of the time. Even the main Toshiro Mifune, who's the main character in Seven Samurai, and I think and in Yojimbo and Sanjuro, which was their sort of, you know, the way he walks and everything, and the way he sort of just hitches his sort of cloak over him like that, and he sort of like that, his scratches and stuff like that. There's something you see that in Clint Eastwood. You know, he's always fidgeting a bit with his, you know, cigarello or whatever, stuff like that, and it's just so it's just quite funny to see that kind of that lineage and the different films influencing each other and then coming sort of full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could talk for years on my pet subject, my mastermind subject.
SPG, do you remember Val Kilmer and Sean Elliott, Tombstone?
Oh, yeah.
Doc
that
Holliday,
classic, man.
Yeah.
Daisy, if you do. I'm your Huckleberry.
Oh my goodness! So
they were quite long, lethargic, like a real passion projects, you know, in that kind of Kevin Costner make it 4 hours long type stuff, you know. But they were, you know, they were good. He was good. Val Kilmer was good in that as well.
Yes, he was.
He does you do feel he's going to die any minute.
Yeah, yeah, you do feel he's ill, and something that's very fascinating about the OK Corral and all the stuff that took place there is it was like 10 seconds long. Yeah, it was a murder. I mean, whatever. It wasn't a as they play it in the movies anyway. Yeah, the elongation of time, which was what Sergio Leone did so well, because obviously famously he had the music on set. So the way they walked and moved was inspired by the music, so that when you put the music on afterwards, it just marries so well, not just in the editing, but the way that they moved, the beats, you know, of what we would say if in the direction, the beats, they just all match up with the music because they're playing the music on set. It's a bit like Baby Driver, where the direction and the choreography is done with the music in mind. So they have the music playing while they're directing it, so that people are hitting the beats as the music plays. And then in the edit, when he edits it, it just marries seamlessly together, but it becomes greater than the sum of its whole, as it were, the sum of its parts. There's just something special about it. I wonder if they do that with The Mandalorian, because that has a very that is so Western feel. It's like this, Searcher.
Yeah, good shout.
Very much. Squids, I want to get to you, sir. Explain to me Pokemon. I never got into Pokemon. I don't understand Pokemon. Right. I know there's like 1,000 games. I'm gonna go ahead and
there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So what do we got? We got the red version, the blue version. Why don't I make you full screen and you can explain it to us, sir?
How many Pokemons are there now?
Yeah. How many?
Yeah. I have no idea.
Oh geez, there's a lot. I think it's in a couple hundreds. There's a lot of them, because pretty much like, so that one, the first one that you're showing there for Pokemon Red and Blue, there's only 150 there, and then they add another, for Red and Blue, and then pretty much like each generation after that, they kind of add like almost 70 to like 100 or something more. So each one is a continuation of more Pokemon on each thing. So you start with red, like that you had pulled up there. That was, what was that? It was
96.
like 19. Was it 90? I got it 90.
96?
Yeah, it came out in 96. I got it personally like 99, 98. Yeah, that's when I got it though. I got it a little bit later. But yeah, that was one of the first games I got on the Game Boy Color. Was playing that. It's, I mean, your generic RPG kind of like, you know, all the RPGs kind of JRPG end thing at the end. This one's like collect the badges. You get all the badges, and then you go and fight the Elite Four, and then you can go and get like, you know, legendary Pokemon and other things like that after. So it's a really fun game. Like each game is pretty much like your standard 20 to 30, but it could be even longer depending on, you know, how many.
Looks
more
like
things
there's
you wanna do at the
22,
end.
Herbert. Looks like there's 22 of them on this list
There's a
anyway.
lot.
Here on the right hand side, I'm looking at.
How many Pokemons total?
It said 22 that I'm looking at here. Let me bring it up real quick.
No, I meant like in the individual Pokemon.
Oh, total
Oh,
Pokemon?
jeez, yeah.
No,
I
he
don't
wants
know.
to like
Like,
a lot.
how,
I'm looking from 96 to
yeah, it's a total
2002.
count. Hold on, let me see.
I hear you're supposed to catch them all, but I don't.
You're supposed to.
There's
That's what I hear. I
at
don't
least it's like 700 or 8. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
almost
who-
900. 898
We're
Pokemon.
talking about
Wow.
age and like
Wow.
you just like
898
so you
Pokemon out right now. So
yeah, you say 96. So, do you know what I mean? When something's been around that long,
mhm.
it's becomes so embedded in
Yeah.
culture. You know, it's got a real long lineage, and that's just it.
Mhm.
You know, again, it's something like somebody who was born, you know, who's like 11 or whatever. It's been around.
Yeah.
It's all, you know, been around longer than they had a whole lifetime before they were even born. You know, it's just hard to think when you're older to think, wow, since 96. Kind of, I remember it when it all came out and it all kicked off and it was like everywhere.
Yeah, and they keep innovating. I remember that damn Pokemon Go. My son's like, Dad,
Yeah,
Dad,
everybody,
look,
even
look,
I did.
It's in the car. It's in the car. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What's in the car? The Pokemon.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it.
pigeon thing, whatever. Yeah.
So you're watching for traffic and now Pokemon. What is going on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a big thing. A lot of crowds of people.
You'd walk
was in
around and
attendance.
see people like this.
What the hell?
Right.
Yeah,
Past other people.
yeah, that's crazy.
What were
And
the
then
two?
after
What were the
that-
two? What were the two teams in
Yeah.
Pokemon Go?
Right.
So then at that time, at the same time, so the
Remember, there were two teams or two colors. What were there in the Pokemon Go? There were two. What were they?
yeah,
Anybody? Bueller? No.
Blue and red, maybe? I don't know.
I don't
because
know.
back in
Well,
the
there were
day,
two-
you
there were
had
two little-
just the
and I
show and the
remember-
cards.
My son was big into it one summer, and we were going around and we were walking through this
Oh,
resort
there's
area.
3. It's
yeah.
there's the Team Instinct. There's the team. It's blue, red, and yellow.
Oh, okay.
I forgot
Okay,
what each
so-
one is. I think it's like Team Instinct, Team Brave, and Team something
It
else.
doesn't matter, but my son and I were walking through, and he was doing whatever, and there was some guy, probably my vintage, and he had his little thing, and I'd be like, "Oh, what team are you on?" And he'd be like, "Blah blah blah." And either my son was excited because he was on the same team,
Yeah.
or disappointed because he was on the other team. But it was just some random guy sitting in a park bench doing something with the game, and I'd just yell out, "What team are you on?" Right? Because
That
that
sounds
was the
like,
big thing. And I
normal
still
for
know some
everyone
people
from
that still. My friend
Pokemon
Jim,
Go, walking around
yeah,
wherever
my
they
friend Jim,
vacation.
who you see in my streams, he still plays it.
Yeah, well,
Looking
you
for
always going
gyms.
to the retro stores and you look at the different Pokemon colors, they are
Oh.
expensive.
Oh, yeah. They're
You
collectors.
know,
They're
even the
collectibles.
Game Boy Color Pokemon games are pretty expensive.
Yeah,
So what made the initial
yeah, Team
the
Instinct,
very first game good?
Team Brave.
Did
Yeah.
you catch that, Squid?
Oh, it's Team Mystic, Team Instinct, and Team Brave.
Yeah.
Those are the 3. Right.
Yeah, I don't think he caught your question, Herbert.
Team Brave's the best one.
Yeah, what makes go ahead, Herbert. Ask him again. Maybe you can hear.
I think there was some lag there.
Yeah, there's lag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll play it
I was
every
asking-
now and again.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit of lag. But I
Yeah.
was asking,
Yeah.
so what do you think the?
Just
I
go
just
ahead.
keep
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
pausing. So okay,
Yeah.
so
Because
what
then
do you
after
think?
there's red, blue, yellow. Really just the story. Was just the story, and then just the fact like it's a JRPG, so you can kind of beat the game with a certain team. Oh, did you hear me?
Yeah, we heard you
Yes.
that time.
Yeah, we got you, brother.
10 seconds after, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're good. Jeff, real quick.
yeah. Sorry, hold on.
Say we're gonna run a I'm gonna bring up your tweet, sir.
Okay.
Yay.
And you can go ahead and
I don't know. I'm sorry.
it's all good, buddy. And you can explain what
What's
this
going
is,
on?
Jeff.
You want me? Should I reload my page? Is that gonna help?
It might
Maybe.
help.
Hold on. I'll be right back.
Maybe Steam is updating a game.
Dude, it is so cool because your
Oh.
mouth is not moving, but you hear
This is-
words.
That's funny.
So for those of you that are new to the show, every week, every show, I do something called This Week in Retro Gaming, where I take a look back at a particular day, and I throw out, some of the games that that launched at that particular time. Will, I know you questioned me on October 2nd, 2001, Qbert coming out for the Macintosh. I did not have a chance to go back and fact check that, but according to my research, that was I loved Qbert back in the day, and you so for our guests, I throw stuff in all sorts of different platforms because you often forget that they came out with Mac versions and Linux versions and other things. So.
Well, I tried to find the actual Macintosh version of this game and I could not find it. So I'm guessing maybe 2001 is the wrong date, maybe, or I just can't bring it up. Nobody game streamed their Macintosh playing, I guess.
Wow. Dude, I remember this at the arcade, man. It's bringing back memories.
Yeah.
Now, Qbert ate some quarters of mine. That is for sure.
Yeah. Clive, did they have Qbert over in the... Because, again, we know some things didn't release in different parts of the world, And
Or
even here, even in North America, there would be stuff that just never came to Canada that would come, to the US or sometimes they come here and not down there.
I remember having Qbert. In fact, there's a recent sort of chain of arcades that's opened in the high street, and basically it's an all-you-can-eat arcade.
Nice.
So you pay like 10 quid or 15 quid, whatever, to get in, and it's got contemporary arcade machines and then some older stuff as well. So it's got like old Pac-Man and stuff like that, and it's got like a giant Street Fighter. I posted some on my Instagram, like a massive screen, and then you stand up at the controls and your mate stands up there.
And you got use a debit card that you preload.
There's you just, I think you on a wrist, you just you don't pay any, well, you paid to get in. But and then it's all you can eat, and you've got an hour and play. But I just remember there was a retro machine there that you could choose the different games, and and I went and took the kids a few weeks ago, and that had Qbert on it as well.
Nice, cool. The Mummy Returns. I love the Mummy movies, and I love the Mummy games. Brendan Fraser and the Mummy. I don't know if you guys ever watched those.
Yes, I remember that. That was a huge hit.
Yeah.
And then they just kept coming
But
out.
the rocking one, didn't they?
Yeah, I think. I was gonna just say, didn't The Rock do?
It was like
the
the
Rock
Scorpion
was
King or whatever it was.
Yeah, they're trying to put the Rock in everything.
And the CGI was not
actually
up to snuff.
Sorry, I just saw that there. If you go back, it's by Blitz Games.
Blitz.
Yeah, and so I remember doing in my former life doing a deal with Blitz Games.
You have to explain.
It was them.
What kind of deal did you make?
So I used to work for Lego.
Oh, nice.
And I worked for Lego Media at the time, and they had aspirations to get into TV and film, and they just started getting into games as a publisher, exploiting the Lego brand. And they just published, I think, a game called Lego Island, which was a great game. it was like a sandbox sort of GTA game, but you're playing a little Lego minifigure and scooting around on your skateboard delivering pizzas. But we have to do deals with developers. Do deals with developers to develop games using the IP. And I think one of the developers that I did a deal with, I'm sure, was for one particular game that we wanted developed was with Blitz Games. I just seem to remember them. But yeah, so I used to do those deals. I used to do licensing deals, development deals, publishing deals with Sony and Xbox and whatnot, and Nintendo. And we did a big game deal with EA and stuff like that, a massive deal.
Lego making video games. Wonder how that turned out for them.
Well,
hey man, they made a bunch of them now.
Well, so what happened? So Lego Island was their first game, and it did really well. And then they had Lego Racers, which was, if I say it's sort of a Mario Kart knockoff, it's a bit unfair. But any kind of fun kart game uses all those Mario features anyway. Like even Sonic Racing or whatever, where you drive over a spinning star or whatever, except it was a spinning brick, and then you can fire that brick and then it disables the car, whatever. So that kind of Mario Kart kind of technique. But it was really good by a company called High Voltage Games from, I think, Dallas, actually, if I seem to remember. And they were really good. And that was on the N64. And it was called Lego Races, and that was amazing. And so Lego Island and Lego Races did really well. It's expensive making games in the N64 because the cartridge is a lot of money, so you pay quite high for that. So the profit margin is not that great. That's why you have to charge much more for N64 games. But that did really well. And then some others did slightly less well. And then we did this big deal with EA, and it was clear we weren't going to hit the targets they thought we might hit, and so we had to kind of undo that deal for them. But meanwhile, in the end, Lego decided, let's go back to do what we do and just concentrate on bricks, as it were. Interesting fact, the biggest tire manufacturer in the world is Lego.
Oh, wow.
They make more tires than anybody else. It's all those little tires for their cars. Interesting fact. But anyway, so they decided, let's concentrate on the brick, and we'll license out this activity. We'll just license out the brand. Why publish ourselves?
Right.
This is why I talk about Stadia a lot and SG&E closing down. See the light. Why? Because it's it's so expensive running a publishing company, developing your own games in-house, even if you're using first-party developers to do it, hoping those games will be a success. That is massively risky, where you could just go to somebody and say, here, have the IP, pay us an advance on that IP, plus, whatever extra on top should you recoup that advance. No risk on you. You're not having to bury that money in hiring a developer and all that kind of stuff. So my then boss, he basically convinced the Lego management to license it out. He left Lego to license it out to him, and he joined up with Traveller's Tales, who used to make all the Disney games. All the little games for Disney that exploited their IP, and they were amazing developers from the UK. And the first title, and so the last sort of deal I did was securing the Lego Star Wars IP for games. And the first
that saga was brilliant.
And the first game they released under license, the Lego license, this new company that was set up by my ex-boss, was the Lego Star Wars, and it did bucket loads. Yeah. Obviously, it had that instant nostalgic appeal for everybody who grew up with Lego, everybody who grew up with Star Wars. It was cute, it was fun, it was crazy, it was silly,
and it
that
had a
DNA
feel to it when you played it.
It was just. I remember seeing early development, levels of it, and this idea originally, because if you could play, two of you play at the same time. So, one of you is C-3PO, one of you is R2-D2. And you had to swap characters as well in order to sort of progress through the level. But we were saying, what happens if one wants to go down that corridor and one wants to go off that way? It's not going to work. And what the designers or creative people said, well, no, don't worry, because kids will work it out. right?
Yeah, those,
you know, they'll
I
just
love
go, "Oh
those
no,
games.
come with me. We want to go down this corridor," and they'll have a discussion and an argument. But then they'll have to come to an arrangement to go, "No, we're going to turn left and walk together down this corridor." And you could just shoot everything, and then everybody, and if you shot the droids, they kind of fell into little Lego coin things. They shattered into little coin things, and anyway, and so they did about a number of those Lego movies, and it was really successful. And then they did, you know, obviously they did the same with the Batman, Lego Batman, and the Lego Marvel characters and stuff like that. And it's super,
Yeah,
it's
they knocked
super
it out of the
fun.
park in the movies too.
It's a big box.
Yeah, they did. That was a long developed. So that was developed after I'd gone, but there was a long aspiration to get to that point, and a few sort of false starts.
I heard you
like
digging.
that. But yeah,
Nice.
Lego Star Wars games are such fun.
Okay, Jeff, if you want to come back and sit down and show us what you had there, and we'll
There's
continue
a
on
stack.
with your
I
This
hear
Week
the
in Retro.
stack of games.
He's
Yes,
digging.
yes. So that's the only one I could put my hands on because
Hold on,
the only one but I think I own them all. I think, and multiple copies because again we had 2 kids. I still do. So we both they'd all be playing at the same time. So where were we? Okay, yeah. So there was what we have. Oh yeah, Quake 2 and Mortal Kombat, which I think are favorites of not only the hosts but all guests. I don't know anyone who's not a favorite of Mortal Kombat. I think people still playing it today.
I don't think I ever played this one. Deception. I don't think I ever played this one.
Oh, come on, man. I love Deception.
Yeah, I don't remember
this
this
had
one.
like a different layout, kind of like Soul Calibur.
Yeah, a little bit. That does kind of remind me of that a little bit, Soul Calibur. But all right, so that right there is Mortal Kombat Deception. And the next one you said was Doom 2 or Quake? I got that messed up. Quake. Yeah.
I think Quake's an all-time favorite of everybody's, isn't it?
Absolutely, man. That was the Quake birthed the LAN party, and people bringing their huge PCs over to their friend's house and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned before, I played 16 hours a day. That was with Quake.
Oh, was
There
it?
you go.
So did you ever have any of those LAN parties where you toted a huge PC somewhere?
Yeah, and it was really heavy.
I did a little bit.
Whatever happened to id Software, eh?
Oh, no.
I did the LAN parties with StarCraft 2 and World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And
Doom,
Go.
baby. Doom.
Oh,
LAN parties.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Dooms, Duke Nukem as well.
Ooh,
StarCraft.
yes. Hell to the king. Baby.
There's an awesome Lego store in the Mall of America. That sounds amazing.
Still good Lego stores. I love them.
I
But you know what, though?
just picked this up this week. Add to my Duke collection.
Whoa, nice.
Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
Everyone knows I'm a big Duke fan. It is my all-time favorite series. All right, what do we got next? We got Bomberman versus Digger for the Windows, Tomb Raider. I put this in for Clive. It came out for the N-Gage.
Yeah,
Did you have N-Gage back in the day?
I remember the N-Gage.
Wow.
yeah, on my birthday too.
There never any games on it, but I remember the N-Gage.
Tomb Raider apparently for the for the N-Gage. I put that in just for you, Clive, because I knew you were on the show. And what did you say? That was your birthday? When make note of that,
October
somebody.
7th.
October 7th is the
Far Cry 6.
7.
There's the N-Gage. Not many
we
people
talked about
have
that
one
on
of
the
these.
show before.
Dude, I remember GameStop. It sat right there on the shelf, and I was like, "Man, do I want to buy that? Do I want to buy that?"
Yeah, I had a friend. So actually, it was at Lego actually, but he was the head of development there. But he was a real gadget man.
Ooh,
And
that
any
looks
new
small.
gadget that came out, he'd have this, like
Wow.
things that are long forgotten. There was a few fancy weird ones that were like a pocket, so PDA type things,
Yeah.
like weird shaped round ones with little buttons on the side and stuff like that, and things like this Engage. It was a whole kind of period when PDAs, as they were sort of going through a sort of, people were coming out with different ones. So this is before obviously phones were getting sort of smart or anything. And he used to, like, every week every month he'd get, it was like what I call Toad of Toad Hall. He'd be going, no, now I'm mostly into an N-Gage, and then about a month later, another device would come out. Now I'm mostly this device. And I just thought one day you just need to set up a museum of all this forgotten tech in your house.
Well, where is he today? Does he have that set up? Where is he?
I've no idea. I don't know.
You better get on LinkedIn and find him.
Yeah.
Was that during the peak of Nokia?
Yeah,
it had to have been.
Before the BlackBerry sort of reinvented sort of handheld.
They had a lot of IPs, man. They had a lot of big time games that you would believe would be on that small screen.
Elder Scrolls is even on there.
Yeah.
I think. Well, it's probably because they had infinite money back then.
Yep.
I also threw in a little FIFA soccer.
Which one? What year is that?
This one's 2K3, I think.
I was still on the other one. Haven't gotten to that yet.
That's not soccer.
Sorry. It's a funny looking soccer.
Yeah,
I was getting ready to say, no, that's not.
I was always
go back to the tweet. So I threw in. That's right. I missed that. Yes. So NBA Live by our friends at EA and NBA 2K3, both came out sort of in North America same day.
Yep.
And I guess you could argue, and I think next season in the new year we're going to have like a dedicated sports show. But you could argue this may be the best of them, maybe 5. But right, what do you think?
I don't know.
All I know is I remember 2002, Oakland, California. I went and I picked both of those games up, both of them, because I love basketball and I love Live and I love 2K3, and I picked them up both, man.
I'll call it now. It's going to be Tecmo Super Bowl and Double Dribble. Best sports games. Just my opinion.
There you go. So then of course we end up with so many versions of FIFA soccer. When I say versions, I mean consoles. Your Game Boys and your Xboxes and your everything.
You can see there's still the same release date. You see,
who's on the
season,
when the
season starts, isn't it?
Was that was it Cristiano Ronaldo on the cover or was it Messi? 2008.
Wow, I don't know either of them, would it? Surely.
So is that the Duke Nukem you held up, Jeff? It
is not. I know it's a different one. I don't have time to kill yet, but I'm working on it.
It looks pretty good.
I had time to kill. I remember picking that
I had
up.
I had it in the olden days. I don't know what happened to them all. So
this is one of those games that you have to you can't look at with today's eyes. So polygons are just so awful, years ago.
So it had Wayne Rooney and Ronaldinho.
Thank you.
Who?
Legends.
Not a soccer guy. So
Rooney played for Manchester United, and the other guy, he played for Barcelona. I think at the time
he was a bit like a Brazilian one.
Dude, he danced when he would dribble the ball. He danced with the ball. He was amazing. And Rooney, oh my God, Rooney. I mean, he's a legend in England.
I'll tell you something that's amazing. I watched the Harlem Globetrotters mess around. Those guys are like superior athletes, man. I know they're not like
I seen them live.
When I was a kid, I think I saw it at the Harlem when they came to a big city near us at the time. Yeah, like when you're a kid, it's just like amazing, and the music and them, and they just
like, jumping so high.
No, did you get the bucket of confetti thrown on you though?
Not on me, but they were running around with the buckets of water and confetti.
my wife, she got us the court. We actually sat on the court in Oakland, and that was awesome.
Fun fact for your wife, William. On TikTok, there is a Duke Nukem sound, so you can make little videos and have it, with the Duke Nukem, some of his great catchphrases,
some of his one-liners.
Yes, I've seen a couple of just in trolling the TikTok. I've seen a couple of people do that, and I'm like, most people don't even know what the hell that is.
I'm trying to decipher the polygons. I think he was at a strip club.
Yeah. I think there's a couple.
Always at a strip club.
there's a couple of the old voiceover artists that are still around, and for a really low price, they would record anything for you.
I saw today there was a guy on Twitter. So they had Commander, what's his name from Destiny 2. So this
Commander
said,
Zavala.
Yeah, Commander Zavala. So the guy who plays him, he posted a video doing that because this woman had written in saying, you know, my husband and I, we're massive Destiny 2 fans, and we're just about to have our first child. Could you send a message as the commander to my husband, telling him about the mission of having this, baby come into your life? And so then he does this. It's on Twitter today. So he does this thing where in that brilliant sort of melodious voice he's got, saying, how you got to take this mission seriously, and it's going to change your life, and blah blah blah. But all in the voice of the commander from Destiny 2.
Well,
really cool.
That's amazing.
He's got to get on Cameo, and then he can be making some money from it. Not
exactly.
Giving it away on the Twitters. He's got to get on the the Cameo there.
Fiverr maybe.
So Herbert, you said that Death Carnival has. Do you have a little bit of Duke Nukem in Death Carnival? Is there?
Because I back then I made a lot of maps too. Like I made a lot of Duke Nukem maps too, and Doom maps, and it. I liked putting in lots of monsters. I like lots of trolling, lots of secrets. That's a lot of that is definitely Duke Nukem, right?
Big fan of trolls.
Like Jeff with the troll.
Like for example, I would hide. There was this map design, and some of the people might know. I would hide these secret chickens over the map, and that's a currency for the secrets. It's a chicken that you have to find in every map, and you find them, and then the chicken sound comes on. So. So I would have very, very carefully hide these chickens all over the map, and hide behind bushes, hide behind crates you have to blow up. But there's more than a couple of times where I would hide the chickens in a place, and then you'd be very proud. And now that you've seen it, the player would go, "Hey, look what I did! Look, I found a secret chicken here." They would walk by it, but I would also place a landmine right beside chicken, so they die right as they get the secret.
They get the reward and start over.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of trolling you can expect from a level design as well.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
So very excited for Death Carnival.
I've got that message if you want to hear it from Commander Sahala.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, let me just get up there. Let me just
share with audio, I believe.
Can you see that?
I cannot.
I'm sharing the right one right there. Let me just share the right screen.
Oh, there we are.
Right. Here we go.
Oh, there's no audio.
You gotta hit the share audio.
Yeah, when you set up the screen share,
right.
it's a little click at the little tick box at the bottom.
Box. Yep.
Let me talk amongst yourselves while I let me stop that and I'll check it out.
So Herbert, were you a Duke Nukem fan back in the day?
Oh yeah. I played a lot of it for sure. Love it.
I didn't really get to play that one.
Oh, you didn't play that one? All right.
No.
Is that a retro Xbox you had there? Game? What was that?
It's Xbox One.
Was that Xbox One? Okay, that could be retro.
So story with that, my Xbox One disc drive broke, and so I couldn't play Destiny or Anthem or any of the other disc games that I had. And so I kind of had the first version of the Xbox One S, so the new one or whatever, Series S, without the disc drive.
Yeah, pretty much, man.
Oh, there we go.
But, yeah.
Guardian David, Commander Zavala here. I understand that the Traveler has blessed you with a new addition to your family. So, your mission is this. For the next few months, get as much sleep as you possibly can. Because once the baby's born, for the next 2 years,
I love it.
You won't.
2 years.
Right. You ain't lying about that, man.
2 years.
Oh man, that is hilarious. Well, hey, I think that's pretty much been the show. Thank all of you for joining us today. Had such a good time. Thank you, Herbert. Thank you, Squid, and thank you, Clive. Starting with you, Herbert, and we'll go all the way around. Tell us where they can find you, what you're up to, and what we can look forward to seeing from you in the future.
Okay, I'm always on Discord, so that's probably the best place to find me. You can go to discord.gg/DC. That's our Discord link. Just find me anytime. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. That's also where you can have the fastest possible access to any new alphas and betas. And later on, as we get going, we'll also run a lot of contests off our Discord as well.
Awesome. I'm going to speak for everybody. We're very excited for Death Carnival, man. I can't wait to run around and get shot and yell at my TV, like I said. It's going to be a lot of fun. Go ahead, Squid. Where are you at? What are you up to? Where can they find you?
Let's see. Well, you can find me on YouTube mostly or Twitter. YouTube, it's youtube.com/grimacid. I do a lot of streams, a lot of mix of games. You'll see me play a lot of things. I'm on a mission right now to try to do get 1K watch level in Division 2, get all the season stuff, so 1 to 100 on Destiny, and then also just be good for trials, and then maybe 1K subscribers on YouTube. So big goals, but in the next couple months. And then you can find me Squids Gaming on Twitter as well if you want to follow me there. But yeah.
Awesome. How about you, Clive?
Yeah, I just changed. You can see my Twitter there. It's at Clive Illenden on Twitter, and then I'm also on YouTube /Clive Illenden. And every Monday night I do the Stadia Monday Night Chat, 10 p.m. UK time, where we do analysis and news and all of that based on my vast experience, as it were, of life and gaming industries and television industry and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I thank you for joining us today, man. I really enjoyed your stories and stuff. Ray, where can they find you? What are you going to be up to, sir?
Tonight I'm going to be streaming Mafia 3, which came out on Stadia. I'm doing that at 10 p.m. Pacific time. Then tomorrow I'm doing Rainbow Six Siege, 10 p.m. Pacific time Monday night. And then, guys, you can catch me on Rock Reveal with Rock, John Starr, and Vet, myself. And then also I do Cloud Nation TV with Dr. Spaceman, Vet, JD, and myself. And that's about it, man. It's a good time to be a gamer. Enjoy these games that are coming out on all the platforms. Herbert, I am Death Carnival. I'm like so pumped up. I can't wait to play it. Thanks for sharing, and thanks to Clive is a legend, and Squid, you're a legend as well, man. Thanks for being on the show. Thank you.
100%.
Thank you, guys.
Ray, when does Cloud Station TV air this week?
You know what? I think the guys want to do it on Thursdays.
Is that the new thing now? I know you moved. I wasn't sure if that was a one-off.
So we were talking about it. I think we're gonna do it on Thursdays now because GFN Thursdays. Dr. Spaceman and Vet done gone GF crazy, but you know I'm holding it down for the other stuff. So yeah.
Just asking. It used to be Wednesday, and then I wasn't sure if it was a special one-off. Just trying to figure out how to slot you guys into my show.
Shout out to SX Retro Gamer in the chat. Shout out.
Absolutely.
Last week's show's guest. Yeah.
Fabulous guest. Mr. Janak, where can people find you? What are you going to be up to, sir?
You can find me at Jeff Janak on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Twitch and Facebook Gaming. Mondays and Wednesdays, I do Stadia streams. I've yet to even fire up the October games. So I'm going to dive into that as well as Wednesday. I usually do a Crata. I love Crata, so I love checking out all the new stuff. Seeing what the brilliant people have created in there. One day I'm going to build a game. I just haven't gotten around to it. And then Friday nights, I do a retro stream, retro gaming stream. I'm looking for something to do that's Halloween related or something. I had Dracula in my hand, but I didn't want to pay $25 for Dracula.
I can name off 2 titles already: Friday the 13th on NES, or
I know, but
Nightmare on Elm Street.
I know. I don't have my
Squid
NESs
mentioned.
and stuff hooked up. I've just got my PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 hooked up at the moment.
Oh, dude, Silent Hill.
So I just got to see what I have. I got to see what I have and what I can pick up in the next week or so, and that. So, and then off and on the weekend, whenever else I can try to stream. Oh, Thursday nights, of course, is No Yes Men with Anthony and Ryzak, where we talk drama. We talk, all the fun stuff that's going on in not only just the Stadia world, but in the world in general.
Right.
And William.
On. Yeah, and me. I'm. You can find me at the YouTube channel Stadia Pro Gaming. I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 12 to 2 p.m. CST, and then every other Sunday you can find me here for another Retro Rewind episode. And I just want to thank all of my guests again for joining us, and thank you guys for participating in the chat and hanging out. We appreciate you guys, and we're gonna leave it there. So.
Thank you.
Let me find where I'm going. Yes, thank you guys all for joining us, and be good to each other. Later,
Been
guys.
awesome.
Peace.
Okay.